in 1960, if you can get Frank Sinatra to sing your campaign song, that's a pretty good deal, right? And so when we think about this, think about campaign ads where we are now, okay? But remember that there's been kind of a long history of these ads. You guys already watched this. I have this in this video just to remind, or in this presentation just to remind us where we are. This was in last Wednesday's, the first past the post CPG Gray video. He's got a number of videos there about gerrymandering and different party systems and things like that, so you can go down that wormhole if you want to. It's on YouTube. But we're going to skip it because we already covered that last Wednesday. And then we also watched the Super PAC, right? So why do we have two-party system? Because it's kind of an inevitable law of first past the post, right? Super PACs, we know because of Citizens United, that's what's going to make them multiply, and money becomes much, much harder to trace. We watched a Stephen Colbert piece on Monday, and so we're not going to watch it right now. My other class, they've not, I had to show both of these in them because they didn't get to either one. And so I just wanted to set us up and remind us, though, that, hey, look, we're talking about a couple of different things. One, the inevitability of the system, right? It's leading us in certain ways. And so in some ways you have to change the structure in order to change the way politics is done. This is another example of that. The Citizens United ruling means that money is more difficult to trace. And also, it should be noted, we watched this on Monday. This was all filmed about 10 years ago. But there's been absolutely zero legislation changing any of these rules in regards to the way that money is collected from super PACs. But
if you buy a super PAC,
this is the focus of today. And so your first question deals with when people are campaigning, how do they do it? Well, they have a four-phase campaign communication. And they're going to attack in this way. They're going to start with biographical, identification, name recognition, right? And so Kennedy, the song we just heard, you know, who was running for president? Nixon. Yes, but from the song, who was running for president?
Obama.
Okay. So the name recognition obviously does something to have people recognize names, okay? And the purpose behind that is so that they can conquer this first hurdle. And for congressional races, that's obviously the biggest thing. And we're talking about local races, we're talking about state races. Getting your name out there and people recognize it is huge. There used to be this sort of idea of the three ideal types of candidates: athletes, astronauts, and actors. Why? Because they're particularly good at law and legislation and building policy. Why? What? They're popular. Specifically, people know what? Their names. Right? And because they know their names, then that first hurdle is already crossed. So we have here from 2010 a governor's race in New York.
I represent the rent is too damn high party. People working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week to sell a third job. Women can't afford to take care of their children, feed their children breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My main job is to provide a roof over your head, food on the table, and money in your pocket. This is politics as usual. Playing a silly game. It's not going to happen. The rent too damn high movement, the people I'm here to represent can't afford to pay their rent. They're being laid off right now as I speak. They can't eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Listen, someone's stomach, child's stomach just growled. Did you hear it? Gotta listen like me.
Okay.
Let's talk about the issue.
Mr. Cuomo, 30 seconds for you, sir.
Rent is too damn high. As a karate expert, I will not talk about anyone up here. Because our children can't afford to live anywhere. Nowhere. There's nowhere to go. Once again, why? You said it, the rent is too damn high.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Cuomo.
First, I'm with Jimmy. The rent is too damn high. The rent's too damn high, party field. If you want to marry, shoot, I'll marry you.
No one knew his name before this debate. In New York, they require that all statewide offices that everybody who is a candidate debates. And so he got his name out there. People knew who he was. He also got a pretty decent job on Saturday Night Live as a guest spot afterwards. So.
I'm for president, I'm for president, I'm for president, I'm for president. You like that, I like that, everybody likes I for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take that to Washington. We don't want John D. or Harry, let's do that big jump right. Let's get in step with the guy that's left, get in step with I. You like that, I like that, everybody likes I for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take that to Washington. We got together, we are going to travel day and night for president. And go the other way, we'll all go and ride. You like guys, I like guys, everybody likes I for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take that to Washington, we'll take that to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
I for president, I for president, I for president, I for president.
Now, obviously, Dwight David Eisenhower didn't have a problem with name recognition. After all, we'll talk about when we get to the presidency and foreign policy, that he was the supreme Allied leader, leader of Allied forces, supreme commander of Allied forces, which is pretty amazing in and of itself. Nonetheless, it's just a reminder, right? You get his name, you got it. All right, so name recognition. Another thing that you can use is a biographical ad. The key to a biographical ad for a candidate is they want to portray that they are like you. And this is the AOC ad from 2018.
Women like me aren't supposed to run for office. I wasn't born to a wealthy or powerful family. Mother from Puerto Rico, dad from the South Bronx. I was born in a place where your zip code determines your destiny. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm an educator, an organizer, a working-class New Yorker. I've worked with expectant mothers, I've waited tables and led classrooms. And going into politics wasn't in the plan. But after 20 years of the same representation, we have to ask, who has New York been changing for? Every day gets harder for working families like mine to get by. The rent gets higher, healthcare covers less, and our income stays the same. It's clear that these changes haven't been for us, and we deserve a champion. It's time to fight for a New York that working families can afford. That's why I'm running for Congress. This race is about people versus money. We've got people, they've got money. It's time we acknowledge that not all Democrats are the same. That a Democrat who takes corporate money, profits off foreclosure, doesn't live here, doesn't send his kids to our schools, doesn't drink our water or breathe our air, cannot possibly represent us. What the Bronx and Queens needs is Medicare for all, tuition-free public college, a federal jobs guarantee, and criminal justice reform. We can do it now. It doesn't take 100 years to do this. It takes political courage. A New York for the many is possible. It's time for one of us. Vote for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on June 26th.
Pretty good ad. I mean, first of all, it's biographical. She's one of us, right? The people that she's aiming it at, right? But also, she does a really good job of putting some policy substance in there, which we'll see in our issues ads in just a second. But in terms of the feeling of it, right? What struck you about that ad? What was different from the identification?
I'm not like those other Democrats. Kind of we were talking about the Tea Partiers, that they want kind of a more conservative Republican, that they want a more like a true liberal who won't compromise.
Okay, and she's effective. I mean, she primaries a 20-year incumbent, right? Somebody who had not really had any competition in years.
I was born in a little town called Hope, Arkansas, 3 months after my father died. I remember that old two-story house where I lived with my grandparents. They had very limited incomes. It was in 1963 that I went to Washington and met President Kennedy at the Boys Nation program. And I remember just thinking what an incredible country this was, that somebody like me, had no money or anything, would be given the opportunity to meet the president. That's when I decided I could really do public service because I cared so much about people. I worked my way through law school with part-time jobs, anything I could find. And after I graduated, I really didn't care about making a lot of money. I just wanted to go home and see if I could make a difference. We've worked hard in education and healthcare and creating jobs, and we've made real progress. Now it's exhilarating to me to think that as president, I can help to change all our people's lives for the better and bring hope back to the American dream.
Hope is also an iconic ad. It's one of those that people look to, and we're going to see another one of those iconic ads in just a second, that people look to. And again, it's the music that's underlying it, right? This kind of feeling of an everyman who's talking, right? This is
Over the next 4 months, you have a choice to make. Not just between two political parties, or even two people. It's a choice between two very different plans for our country. Governor Romney's plan would cut taxes for the folks at the very top, roll back regulations on big banks, and he says that if we do, our economy will grow and everyone will benefit. But you know what? We tried that top-down approach. It's what caused the mess in the first place. I believe the only way to create an economy built to last is to strengthen the middle class, asking the wealthy to pay a little more so we can pay down our debt in a balanced way, so that we can afford to invest in education, manufacturing, and homegrown American energy for good middle-class jobs. Sometimes politics can seem very small, but the choice you face, it couldn't be bigger. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Okay, that's a perfect example of an issues ad. Doesn't matter. It's a perfect example of an issues ad, okay? A recitation of what we've done, a contrast maybe to the other side. Now, here's another one of those iconic ads. This is called Morning Again in America.
It's morning again in America. Today, more men and women will go to work than ever before in our country's history. With interest rates at about half the record highs of 1980, nearly 2,000 families today will buy new homes, more than at any time in the past 4 years. This afternoon, 6,500 young men and women will be married. And with inflation at less than half of what it was just 4 years ago, they can look forward with confidence to the future. It's morning again in America. And under the leadership of President Reagan, our country is prouder and stronger and better. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago?
In both of these, they're laying out what they've done and what they're going to do in contrast to what came before or what's offered otherwise. A clear issues ad. Now, these are inoculation ads. With an inoculation ad, the idea is there's probably going to be some tea spilled, right? They're going to get some trash talking on you, and so you got to get out in front of it. And this is how you do it.
Raphael Warnock eats pizza with a fork and knife. Raphael Warnock once stepped on a crack in the sidewalk. Raphael Warnock even hates puppies.
Get ready, Georgia. The negative ads are coming. Kelly Loeffler doesn't want to talk about why she's for getting rid of healthcare in the middle of a pandemic. So she's going to try and scare you with lies about me. I'm Raphael Warnock, and I approve this message because I'm staying focused on what Washington could do for you. And by the way, I love puppies.
Vote for him.
He's up right now. Senate race in Georgia. Okay. So Martha McSally had to start this in 2014.
Martha McSally hates apple pie. McSally will destroy Social Security.
Hey there, that's totally wrong. My commitment is to protect Social Security and Medicare.
Martha McSally wants to end student loans.
Wrong again.
I got it. Well, Martha McSally's war on women.
Are you kidding me? This is why people are fed up with politics. The lies keep growing, but the jobs don't. I'm Martha McSally, and I approve this message because it's time for a change.
McSally dislikes puppies.
Watch it.
Right? Yeah. As Shakespeare said, the bit with the dog always kills. All right, so these are different kinds of ads. These are fear ads or attack ads, okay? In 2018, all right, the last time we had midterms, we're about to have midterms again, so you're about to see this again. 70% of all ads that were run in the last 2 months of the election were attack ads. The best ones are grounded in fact. They cite their sources well. They are done by a surrogate instead, okay? Not the person, because you want to be distanced from that dirty stuff. And they avoid discussing the plight of the less fortunate. So here we go. This is from 1988.
As Governor Michael Dukakis vetoed mandatory sentences for drug dealers, he vetoed the death penalty. His revolving door prison policy gave weekend furloughs to first-degree murderers not eligible for parole. While out, many committed other crimes like kidnapping and rape, and many are still at large. Now Michael Dukakis says he wants to do for America what he's done for Massachusetts. America can't afford that risk.
They should be properly priced at Michael Dukakis now, right? All right, so this ad is another one of those iconic ones. It was played exactly one time on television. Yes, it's incredibly famous. It was only played one time. It was considered to be too frightening.
These are the stakes to make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Ow! So what was going on in 1964? What are people afraid of? Yeah.
During Cold War, I was running against LBJ. He was pretty bullish about getting more involved in the
You're absolutely correct, right? So Barry Goldwater wanted to do more in Vietnam. Ironically, LBJ is stepping into that quagmire himself. We're going to take attendance. Are you guys ready? Attendance. I'm going to move on to a summation ad. Now, summations, the first one I'm going to show you is the Biden ad. It's a typical summation ad. This is one of the few times that I've ever seen a summation ad, the President Trump ad, that is not like this. So this is a textbook example of what a summation ad is from Biden.
I started this campaign saying we're in the battle for the soul of the nation. I believe that even more deeply today. Who we are, what we stand for, and maybe most importantly, who we are going to be. It's all at stake. Characters on the ballot, the character of the country. And this is our opportunity to leave the dark, angry politics of the past 4 years behind us, to choose hope over fear, unity over division, science over fiction. I believe it's time to unite the country, to come together as a nation. But I can't do it without you, so I'm asking for your vote. We need to remember, this is the United States of America, and there's never been anything we've been unable to do when we've done it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Okay, an excellent summation ad, because he does what? Brings people back together, right? Brings people back to kind of the concepts that he's starting with, the idealistic side. And remember, there's just been attack ads that's just happened. So this is the very end, the last 2 weeks of the campaign.
While America's cities burned, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris fanned the flames, refusing to strongly condemn violence, supporting bail funds that help let rioters, looters, and dangerous criminals out of jail.
Joe Biden's silence speaks loudly. He doesn't have our backs.
In Joe Biden's America, we'll all be in danger.
President Trump will keep America safe.
If you support the police, support Donald Trump.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Okay, so back on the attack and fear, right? So I'm actually, whenever we do our little poll here in a second, I've clumped that one together under the fear category, because it wasn't a true summation, even though it was meant to be a summation ad for the end of the campaign. Okay, so here's the humor. Now, my favorite video of all is going to be the last one that we watched. But first, we're going to watch Joni Ernst.
I'm Joni Ernst. I grew up castrating hogs on an Iowa farm. So when I get to Washington, I'll know how to cut pork.
Joni Ernst, mother, soldier, conservative.
My parents taught us to live within our means. It's time to force Washington to do the same. To cut wasteful spending, repeal Obamacare, and balance the budget. I'm Joni Ernst, and I approve this message because Washington's full of big spenders. Let's make them squeal.
A little uncomfortable, that's funny, all right.
We've got room to put 2,700 people in our jail, and it costs us about $103 a day.
Gerald really doesn't have any hobbies.
Last year's tax rate was 0.4169. This year, we could take that down to 3,838.
So is he always like that?
Yeah, all the time.
Which means that the 3,838 is probably going to go somewhere between 3,838 and 41.69.
Most people leave their work at the office.
We got 3 light rail cars. You can put 60 people on each car. So even if you add 2 cars, you're talking about maybe 300 people that are affected. There are 1 million people in this community. I mean, that is 0.01 to the 8th power. If you round it off, it's 0.
All he wants to do is fix things.
So we got this 18-wheeler that's parked in this neighborhood, fumes all over the place, but quite frankly, it's not a code violation. You know, I think I like helping around the house here.
Please reelect Gerald. Please.
So I thought it was funnier than you guys did, I guess. All right, it's fair. But it's my favorite ad is the Gerald ad, always. He's been elected, he got elected that year, and he's been elected 2 more times since then. He's been all right. Okay, so how many of you have a TV? How many of you own a television? Hey, look at that! You guys, I tell you what, it is going up, all right? The last couple of semesters I've asked that question, there's been like 6 people. They're like, I don't watch TV and I don't own one. Well, I guess it really depends on whether or not you have a TV. Not necessarily, because the first thing we're talking about is broadcast, okay? More than 3/4 of Americans get at least some of their news from TV. That's a lot. Television really matters, okay? The great thing about broadcast TV is it's the best medium for showing visual things, and we are visual people. My husband is leaving us now, so you can go out that way to that door if you want to go that way. He's already headed. Say goodbye, DJ.
Bye, DJ.
So broadcast TV, it's also useful for setting the campaign agenda and associating the campaign with popular issues, right? It's really broad. It's not good at targeting, okay? Now, cable is great for primaries. Why is cable so good for primaries? Why is cable so good for primaries? Yeah. You can target local residents, so you can use local cable in that way. That's key, all right? What else? You're right. What else? What do we know about cable yet? Specific channels, so get more specific. Absolutely. It's easier to target, right? It's easier to target. First of all, older people more likely to have cable. Older people more likely to vote?
Yes.
Yes. Number two, primaries are more ideological, and so therefore, if you are a Republican candidate, where are you going to spend your money during primary season?
Fox News.
Fox News, absolutely. That's where you're going to spend your money, right? And so that way you're targeting exactly who you want. The problem is media markets, if you're talking about the state of Texas right now, running for governor or senator in the state of Texas, how many market shares do you have to buy? It gets really expensive, okay? Television advertising is expensive. And again, targeting works better with cable during the primaries, but then after that, it doesn't. And broadcast doesn't target well at all, okay? Radio, on the other hand, the great thing is that it's cheap. It's also underused. And listenership has not gone down, unlike television viewership. It has remained pretty constant. It's not a large percentage, but it's a decent, you can count on getting this 15% who get their news there. Not only that, it's good for visually awkward and emotional appeals. So here's my question for you. How many of you have been driving down the road, listening to the radio, and you start crying to the song that comes on? Go ahead, raise your hand. All right, me too. All right. Last class, only one admitted it, but I knew there were more of you. All right, it's perfect for that. It's perfect. You are a captive audience, okay? It's really good for emotional appeals, okay? You have to be focused. The printed word. These are newspapers, direct mail, campaign literature, and websites. Now, do you automatically go to candidates' websites? No. Okay? They have to reach you some other way first. Okay? And so this broad stretch, these broadcast mediums, either through the radio or television, are more effective for that name recognition, getting people to pay attention to you, things like that. But if you do not have substance in writing, things fall apart. Right? So when people start really looking, hey, I think I like these three candidates, I'm going to do a little bit more research. Then you need to have the content to back it up. Newspapers have been losing readership. However, that's where you're going to go to find out more information about local races. Absolutely. You're not going to find that anywhere else. Direct mail, we don't live in Oklahoma in a state that gets a lot of direct mail except for in state elections. But other states in national elections are going to get more direct mail, okay? But that direct mail is still brief, right? It's going to lead you to that campaign literature that has more stuff on policies, and specifically their websites that are going to be dense with information, substance. Digital media, social media is a way that candidates can speak directly to the people, right? President Obama on his BlackBerry in 2008 was texting followers on election night. That's pretty cool. It was a personal text from him, right? And so throughout it, it worked pretty well. We see the same social media being used by President Trump. He used Twitter essentially to announce policy. Yeah.
I'll just say on Facebook's introduced tools that it will respond not only with your name, but use keywords from your question to write a response back to you that's all automated.
And so if you go to a Facebook site of a candidate, they're actually not talking to you, but it feels like they are, okay? And so it's kind of like when you write a letter and you get one back. I mean, you know in the back of your head that probably a staffer wrote it, but you still got a letter from the president, right? Okay, that's pretty cool. YouTube comment section, none of us should ever go down that rabbit hole, but we do. And there's a lot of things that go on there. Telephone calls and texts. How many of you like to answer the telephone? Nobody? In the last class there were 6, right? Whenever I was a child,
my mother,
back in the old days, telephones were attached to walls. They did not have caller ID. When the phone rang, you answered it, right? So, and you couldn't miss it. What if it was an important call? Okay? Later, as we got caller ID, phones are still attached, but what is it? The phone. That phone's still attached, yeah. Later, as we got caller ID, phones are still attached, but there's a little bit more discretion. Are we going to answer this call or not? And now with our mobile phones, we tend to go, I don't see a name I know, and stick it in our pocket, right? I do that 16 times a day, all right? So if you're trying to reach me and I don't have your name in my phone, then you should leave a message, because I do listen to it. Text messages, however, very effective. I've gotten over the last several days 5 text messages asking specifically for money because of an FEC deadline. They don't know that I'm broke. They should know that I don't have any money, but they don't. All right. Free media, those happen at events. They can be staged events. Donald Trump was super effective at this. CNN would cover his rallies from long before he started until the end. It did not matter who else was on the campaign trail, whether they be Republican during the primaries or a Democrat and they were actually speaking. They did not care. CNN started because it was a spectacle with the rally and showed it for hours. CNN is, I believe, responsible completely for the election of Donald Trump. Because of the way that they showed his rallies completely uncut and did not show opposing views at all. Which is interesting because he hates them and calls them bad names. Spontaneous events are even better. A good wildfire that you can show up and say, and this is why my policy is to be enacted. It's always good, right? A spontaneous event, but no matter what, it's free, it goes on the news. Debates, we saw the New York debate that Jimmy McMillan used to make his ad. In New York, all statewide candidates are required to go have a debate, be on the debate stage if they enter into the race. That is not true in every state. That's not true in most states. It's not true in more than a handful of states.
Interesting with Langford and Lawmeyer. Langford won't debate Jackson Lawmeyer.
Incumbents don't want to bite, right? Because why should they? They only have something to lose. The great thing about incumbents is you know what? What do you know? their name. Right? If you let the opposition on the stage with you, you've just given their name out too. You've just lost an advantage. All right, so which is your favorite out of these? Should be fear and attack on that one, but I missed. I had to lump them together because I only have 4 objects. Okay. So on Friday in your labs, you guys are going to begin making a campaign app. Okay? So this is going to tell you how to do it. This will be up. It's still under modules on the slides, and it's possible that your fellow will show it too. Props to Rashid who found this because it's perfect.